All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome everybody to today's interview with Bobby again after some time. Yeah, my first question was if you remember when we last spoke, Bobby.
First and foremost, wa alaikum assalam. When did we speak the last time? So I remember clearly that I wasn't Muslim back then. I was still wrestling with my faith. What will I do? I remember clearly that we talked especially about me still being attached to the cross and doing the crossing. That's something that I can very, very clearly recollect. So therefore, I've been Muslim. I reverted 2 days before Ramadan. So I would assume it must have been a year by now.
Been a while. It's been like 17 October according to YouTube, I think. So it's more than a year.
Yeah.
It's crazy how time flies.
That's right, man.
I
That's right.
remember I was in a hospital with my wife. She was like about to give birth to my son, and we talked about catching up. And that's already 6 months ago. Like my son is here, 6 months old. He's
6 months,
yeah,
mashallah.
he's so big. It's crazy. How are you with your family? It's
Alhamdulillah, everything is beautiful. So I'm a double daddy now. My daughter has been born as well, and is already 2 months old now. It's
great.
quite amazing, right? You know it yourself now. Once you become a father,
Mm,
you observe time quite differently because then you really see when 6 months pass as a
yeah,
totally different person now. It's a totally different kid. So another 6 months pass. All of a sudden, the baby is now almost a toddler, 1 year. 2 years, 3 years, So it's quite the interesting measurement. If you have kids around, you can always really observe time. For me personally, it really helped me to be more efficient because otherwise, man, 3 months pass, 5 months pass, you don't really recognize it. But when you have kids, you can really see, yes, time has passed by, right? And that really keeps me disciplined and way, way more efficient. But anyways, yeah, thank God everything is well. My daughter is the cutest little baby cookie being on this planet. I love her. She's 2 months old now. My boy just started going to kindergarten now as well here in Thailand. It's really amazing for him. He loves it. We have a very international kindergarten, many kids from all across the globe. So yeah, life has been very, very good here in Thailand. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. It's crazy, yeah, with the time because on yourself you don't really observe it that much. Even 2 years go by, nothing changed that much. I still look the same, but yeah, when you have kids, it's crazy. Like he's completely different than he was when he was born.
For sure.
He even looks differently. Like he looks differently. His face looks different. Yeah, it's crazy how he's gonna develop further when he starts talking. I mean, he speaks a bit, but when he starts engaging, it's gonna be again different. And it's also crazy now when I see some images from, let's say, Gaza or some of these places where I see kids suffering. I look at it completely different now because I'm the father now. I'm not the child anymore. So I'm like, subhanallah, I can't even imagine this. Like how, like it's crazy. I know in Islam, alhamdulillah, we know that children will go to Jannah, and it's all good, but still it's like, subhanallah, it's crazy. Looking at it as a father, it's nothing that anyone should live through, but this is the dunya, this is the world, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's absolutely heartbreaking. As you said, of course, they will get Jannah, but at the same time, for us on a human level, it's just heart-wrenching. And as a father, you can fully understand it. Before that, rationally, you can understand it as well. Of course, you can put yourself somewhat in the position when you see such atrocities. However, once you're a father, you can really feel that emotionally, that loss. We had images circulating now from this man in Gaza holding his daughter, and she was dead. It became kind of viral. And he wasn't even really sad. I mean, probably he was, but he didn't display it outwardly. He was talking to her. He was treating her as if she was still there, and just to see this scene, you can't fathom, that to happen to your children, that to happen to your family. So our brothers and sisters in Gaza are going through hell ultimately, which brings me to the point that since I reverted to Islam, I never thought that I'm going to be put into a position where I feel so useless. It's unbelievable, man, because I knew what was going on in Gaza, and even before ever considering Islam, I always was for the Palestinian side. It was clear who the oppressor was even back then. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to find out about the history in Palestine. But now that I reverted to Islam, you feel it even more as an obligation, as a duty to somehow help. And it feels so extremely useless, so paralyzing, so pathetic. Just sit here and sure, be somewhat able to share the information through social media, but not to physically do something. And has been driving me crazy, especially as a father, because you see children dying. And man, we have updates every single day. Every single day, another dead kid, another dead kid. It's insane. You can't even see it as real almost. It's so paralyzing to see one dead kid after another popping up every single day, and you're just sitting there and you can't do anything about it. So for me, it has been quite frustrating, to be totally honest. And then moreover, you see some people, I'm not going to name names, but even within the Muslim Ummah, and they're having those grandiose speeches, almost like a Leonidas from Sparta, those warlike speeches. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but you're just sitting in Europe and you're not doing anything physically. So for me, it has been quite frustrating to be in that situation. How was it for you?
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating. I was yeah, I was actually 2 years ago. There was a bombing in Gaza, like a big one. There was a protest, and I was part of it because I was a fresh new Muslim, and I didn't really know what's
Right.
going on. Like I had no background. I didn't really understand the conflict. But I was a Muslim, and I didn't understand why is everyone like making this part of my deen. Like why is this something I have to support? Because I wasn't like knowledgeable. I was ignorant. But then I learned about it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But now it's completely different. I mean, by this point, if somebody's supporting the other side, I can't even comprehend how they can rationalize it. Even as a non-Muslim, whatever you are, it's like insane what's happening. So, and the worst is the response from the Muslims, and not just the Muslims, because most people don't have power, but the Muslim governments or the Muslim, not the even the governments, but just basic people who have some power, they are super silent. So that's kind of telling, like, okay, I mean, we know from Islam, like Muslims will be humiliated multiple times in the history, so that's nothing new. So, and I'm prepared that people will think that we're all terrorists and stuff like that, which is happening in Europe now, everywhere. Now it's more crazy, the stabbings, the people perceiving Muslims, people electing far right guys in Netherlands, on all these places, because
Sure.
this is kind of fueling, and it's being fueled from one side of this war, this argument that all Muslims are bad. So yeah, it's fine for me. I'm not doing anything with it. But I personally was attacked also by these Zio guys. I know on my personal like Facebook stuff, and they put some pictures and they said I'm extreme. So like it's crazy what's happening, and I'm just nobody, right? But I can't imagine like the people with some stake in the game, like maybe they have more to lose because I'm working for myself. What could you do to me? Like I'm not in a university, nothing. But the other people who have much to lose, I guess they are calculating, like if I make this move, I'll lose my job, or I'll don't get this promotion, so I better be quiet. And that's simply how that's the road to hell, pretty much, if everybody's doing that. So and I guess this is what everybody's doing, like but it's changing with public pressure. It's changing, but it's very slow, um because there are multiple layers of this conflict, right? Uh, it's not just Palestine and this. There's also these Chinese trade routes. There's also these Abraham Accords. There's also these global things on top of this. That's all clashing there. So you have to look at it from multiple angles and just understand also the Saudis' point of view. Like, why are they not doing anything? Because they are afraid of Iran, and why? And then just kind of like understanding all this, it makes your yeah, it's
Sure,
pretty.
sure.
But anyways, it's a horrible situation. Yeah,
Yeah,
at least
absolutely. But it's quite
everything is
interesting.
out there now. Everything has been all the talk of like human rights, all this nonsense. It's been like nice to hear about it because I haven't lived through like when it was Iraq war or Afghanistan, like when it was like fully in mode in 2003. I was like a young boy. I wasn't really paying attention. But now it's like this is the first time I'm seeing like these are straight up lies. These are straight up lies, and it's crazy. It's crazy that it's just out there. So yeah.
Yeah, and the lies are so ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
Honestly, for me, it
crazy.
feels like they're catering to children ultimately.
Yeah.
right? You have Elon Musk going to Israel, visiting Israel, meeting up with Netanyahu.
I mean,
And
that's like,
Netanyahu sits there, and it's really just like a parody, like a South Park episode almost.
yeah.
I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, how can anybody believe this? Like, yes, they put babies into an oven. That's what they did, Yeah, sure. I'm absolutely sure that's exactly what happened. 40 decapitated babies. That's what happened. And then, yeah, no proof, whatever. The point of the story is they're so one-sided, and they have to regurgitate the same narrative over and over again, of course, to get the support. And I find it so funny now being on the other side as well, to see the so-called Christians, the conservative American Christians, especially with their Judeo-Christian values. And I talked about this on my channel briefly. I know we cannot go into too much depth, and I want to spare it here for your channel as well, to not get you into any kind of trouble. But it's just funny. As a Christian, you really have to ask yourself, what is a Christian value first and foremost? What is your theology, right? So you believe that Jesus is God. And at the very least, you believe, of course, that Jesus is the Messiah. That is the Christian perspective. Now, Jews do not believe that. With Muslims, you have something in common. They believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They do not subscribe to your idea of him being God. However, the Jews have said they do not believe that. Moreover, if you look into Talmudic Judaism, there is quite the attack on Jesus as well. And I'm not going to get into the graphic detail of that. So, but somehow we're speaking of Judeo-Christian values. And again, I'm wondering which values those are. So ultimately, it's so amazing that they've been played to defend the Jewish faith, the Jewish religion. Meanwhile, Judaism, essentially, and sorry to say this, dear Christians, but they hate Jesus and they hate your faith. And Christians are being attacked in Israel as well on a daily basis. We have video after video of nuns being attacked, Christians in general, right? And they're still going to partner up with them. So therefore, you see that those people are so gullible, they fell for the biggest deception, and they have no real value that they stand upon. Now you see certain conservatives yet again, such as Donald Jr. Trump, I believe his name is, the son of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And he's posting one meme after the other. For example, you see like a goat, and the goat has a bomb inside of her. And then it's like, haha, that's how you catch Hamas. Because Hamas loves goats, right? Get it? So funny. Boomer joke after boomer joke. Ridiculous, right? But the point of the story is that they simply see Islam as the enemy. They want to partner up with the Jews, with the Israelites, but based upon what yet again? They're talking about shared conservative values because ultimately they do not believe in their own religion. Because if they were true Christians, they would never partner up with the Jews. And traditionally speaking, historically speaking, you can see that the Jews have been expelled out of Christian countries, but not out of Muslim countries. And that shows you as long as Christians were still real Christians, they actually did not collaborate with Jews. But now they're sharing this pseudo ideology, philosophy of conservative values, allegedly. And this is how they're siding with the oppressor on the basis of course, democracy. And this is why it is so fascinating now, as you said, in the Netherlands, now you have this far-right politician that has been elected. However, in Argentina, there is another far-right politician that has been elected. And their talking points are almost identical. Somebody needs to make a video and just take the talking points that they went through and just mirror them. Because both said we have to support Israel, first and foremost, because Israel is the only country that has a democracy in the Middle East. Yet again, essentially regurgitating the whole narrative that Muslims are just desert savages, ultimately, and they just cannot establish a proper democracy within their own lands. They have to follow this barbaric Sharia, that's what it is, and therefore we have to support Israel if we want to support democracy worldwide. And if we don't, Netanyahu says, if we don't, then Hamas will take over first the Arab lands, right? Then over Europe and then over America. As if that is a realistic possibility. Like, what is this here now? A Hollywood movie? Hamas, sure, little Hamas will take over the whole world now if we don't bomb Gaza. Absolutely logical, man. So therefore, it is deception after deception. And even with those stabbings that you mentioned, I'm not saying that there are no violent Muslim youth within Europe, because I witnessed that myself as well, living in Germany, sure. However, now it is so pushed in the media, all of a sudden, stabbing after stabbing, almost identical, yet again, stabbings in France, stabbings in Ireland, stabbings in Germany, I believe as well. All of a sudden, stabbings everywhere, and nobody else, has seen it before, apparently, and we are focusing only on that the boogeyman yet again becomes Islam, right? So as you can see, with the far-right election, with this narrative that we're having at the moment, what they're doing is attacking Islam. That's what it boils down to, really. On the surface level, you see so many things happening, as I said, establishing a new democracy in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, it boils down to attacking Islam. And that's so amazing. You know, once you accept Islam, you see all of this unfolding and you realize it has been always simply an attack on Islam. That's it. That's what it has been on a spiritual level from the get-go. Islam is submission to God. The opposite of that would be rebellion against God. So you see a world rebelling against God, and therefore they're rebelling against Islam. They cannot submit.
Yeah, but
That's
most
amazing.
people don't know this, you know, because they haven't looked
No.
at Islam, so they will always look at
Oh,
it from the other side. But even the
sure.
Judeo-Christian, you know, that's not something Christians invented. They would never
No.
say there's anything like Judeo-Christian, you know. It came from the other side, and yeah, they don't even consider them human. Like, not even, they don't even have souls.
Oy
Uh,
vey.
so why do this? But just look at past 100 years. Which Muslim country colonized someone? Like, give me one example or two. Like, yeah, there have been some wars, but none of the countries were out there to take over the world and establish Islam. It didn't
Sure.
happen. So
I guess the European attack on that would be the empires in itself, right? Be it the Ottoman Empire. That is the strongest European talking point, that the Ottoman Empire came up to Austria and they wanted to take over Europe and like that further take over the whole world. But the Europeans, they fought off Islam successfully, right?
yeah,
They
it's been a
won
while.
roughly 100 years since the fall of the Ottoman Empire.
Yes,
I think exactly
but since
100 years, right?
since the Battle of Vienna, I think that's been like, I don't know how many years. I think
Sure, longer.
that was a longer time ago. But that was the age where there was no Europe, like states, and nothing. It was the age of kingdoms, empires, everyone's clashing together.
Sure.
Anyways, but yeah, what Netanyahu said about, he doesn't just want to get rid of Hamas. If you've listened to him, he wants to change Islam. He wants to
Oh,
change
really?
in these countries. Like he said, okay, Saudis are following the UAE and the other, which is the trend. So this is the only version of Islam that will be like accepted, probably. He wants to like push it like that, okay, it's going to be super conservative, but don't ever talk about politics. Like, no, never mention it. And you can live in the UAE and pray and do your Ramadan and do your silly stuff, but don't ever try to implement Islam on a societal level, because you're, and this is the model in all these countries, right? And he's happy with Saudi changing. So I think that's, he even mentioned with Elon Musk, like, this is what we need to do. We need to kind of change the Islam in this way. I mean, it's not possible, but reform it. And it's crazy that they're actually successful, like in a lot of these countries. Subhanallah. And I'm going to Saudi, inshallah, this month, actually, for Umrah, like next month. So we'll see if I have any troubles. Hopefully not. But
I don't think you will. I don't think you will. Sheikh Uthman just went over there with Sneeko. He sent me a message from over there. Everything was just fine. I don't think you will have any problems going over there. But that's interesting. I didn't know that Netanyahu spoke about that he wants to reform Islam, the Islamic reformer Netanyahu. What
crazy.
a title, yeah.
Like a
yeah, but it's amazing. When you reflect upon it, truly at the moment, in this time that we're living in, the God, and I say that, of course, just as a metaphor, the God that is being worshipped by the people is economy. Honestly, it just boils down to economy. So anybody that has the economic strength, the economic power, will determine which direction we are going. So people do not go by theology. For a while, as I said, you have this pretense we're going by democracy, democracy, democracy. But ultimately, our society is based upon capitalism. You just follow the strongest economic power. And therefore, no matter who is in charge, he will even determine such religious matters, which is quite interesting. I would have to ask, though, and I have no answer to this, I'm just thinking out loud, how Saudi would wrestle with that, because ultimately Saudi incorporated Wahhabism. So how does Wahhabism look like
he's getting rid
if they
of
don't
it.
have a political structure?
No, Mohammed bin Salman is getting rid of Wahhabism slowly. It's been implemented this year, but his goal is to secularize the Wahhabi movement. I don't know how much time he has for that, but that's his like goal. And he has the 2030 vision, which is like in 7 years. where Saudi will be the hotspot for concerts and stuff like that.
More Lady Gaga, more Shakira.
Yeah, definitely. So
amazing.
So he wants to build a new Europe, basically. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but I think we'll judge their work a couple of years from now, I guess, once you see the results.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, so the world is getting crazy, but how has it been for you in terms of like once you accepted Islam? I mean, everybody was happy, right? Like I was also checking out the video and everything. It was I think it was in Thailand, right? Or in Indonesia?
Yes. No, it was in Thailand. Absolutely. Right? Sheikh Uthman was in Indonesia, but then he came over to visit here in Thailand.
He's crazy. He flies over everywhere, like in different countries. I always see him like, how's he doing this? I'm just staying here.
Yes, jet set lifestyle. Sheikh Uthman is busy.
Yeah. So so once you did the Shahada, like I told you even a year ago, like it's like your life is not gonna change that much, but you will change, of course. Of course it's gonna change, but you're still the same guy like you were before. So what have you observed like on yourself spiritually? Maybe like once you started being like once you started actually coming to terms with like I'm actually a Muslim, because I understand. I remember from my Shahada, I wasn't really, my identity was still like not there fully. And then after 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I was like, okay, I'm like fully Muslim, like, and now no problem. But it takes time to get to that, because you have this pressure from family, like all these stuff, right? But then you're finally like coming to terms that this is what I've chosen. So has it been like very fast for you? Like, yeah, I'm Muslim and that's it, or was there a process, and what changes did you observe once you started practicing more and more, maybe?
Sure. There's actually a very deep question, because for me, it wasn't an overnight decision, and you know that. All right. For me, it took such a long time. I was reading the Quran first, and then additionally to finishing the Quran, I still studied Islam for 2 years. Right. So for some people, maybe that doesn't sound much. For me, almost 3 years studying one subject before committing to that subject is quite a long time. Because back in the day, if I would find out about any type of subject, I would just jump into it right away. When I found out about, hey, there are actually gyms out there, I just got a membership and went straight into it. A few months later, I was a bodybuilder, right? That's just how I was back in the day. And therefore, 3 years of preparation, I was already praying before reverting to Islam. I already went to the mosque before reverting to Islam every Friday, right? So I did all of those things already. For me, it was just this internal battle. Can I truly accept this? Can I truly commit to it? Once I accepted Islam, I don't know if this is really visible on the video of my Shahada, but for me, it just felt like a ton of weight was lifted. I really felt exhausted and relieved at the same time. I remember that just talking to my friends that were around, I said, man, guys, I feel really I just ran a marathon. I'm done. I'm done now, you know. I finally arrived. However, right after the Shahada, the real battle started, because that's when all my family members cut the ties with me. And to this very day, I haven't talked with my father. I haven't exchanged one word with him at all. He blocked me on WhatsApp and Telegram and all of those things. So I have no contact at all with my dad. With my mother, a mother is always a mother. So there's some contact here and there, but it's nothing like it used to be. With my sister, it's picking back up a little bit as well, but yet again, nothing as it used to be. And that is predominantly due to the cultural identification. As you know, the cultural identification on the Balkan and Slavic lands, essentially religion is your nationality, ultimately. And especially during the Ottoman times, there's something that I found out later then was researching the Ottoman Empire. You had Bulgarians and Greeks that were fighting on the Ottoman side. However, the folk narrative was those men have become Turks. And so therefore, to this very day, my family members in Macedonia that don't really speak to me either believe that I became a Turk now. And some others that are a bit more charitable believe that I became an Albanian now, right? So therefore, the real struggle started after accepting Islam, because, yeah, it's very alienating, man, being in your 30s and all of a sudden your whole family doesn't talk to you because you made a religious choice, right? It's quite the challenge, I have to say. I put my faith in God completely, and therefore I know that I did the right thing. And therefore, nothing that will happen in this dunya will ever sway me otherwise. That's just what it is. But at the same time, I have to say it was quite challenging. Now, spiritually speaking, I just see the more that I practice, I come back to a more natural, grounded self. Because prior to Islam, my life, especially throughout my 20s and the early stage of the 30s, was just a endless seeking, just searching all the time. I don't know if I talked about this on the previous podcast with you or not, but I went to multiple countries. I even went to the jungle of South America to drink the psychedelic brew ayahuasca with the shamans. I participated in their ritual dances and whatnot. I did so many crazy things just in the search of God, ultimately. So finally, with Islam, it feels like I arrived home and I feel very, very grounded and I feel competent to take care of family matters, for example, which is kind of ironical again, because my family cut that, excuse me, my family cut their ties with me, but my little family here, my kids, I feel much more competent in being a father and putting them on the straight path because there is no confusion within my head any longer as it was previously. So Islam for me has been more grounding over time. Even the prayer in itself, you're grounding yourself by putting your head onto the floor. This act in itself, 5 times per day, is the most grounding exercise I have found. So it's so rational, so logical once you accept it. And I see that my mind is just becoming clearer and clearer day by day. It's absolutely beautiful. And this fear of a changed identity or a loss of identity just went completely out of the window. It does not feel as a change. It feels much more like you're returning to your normal self. I feel much closer to my past self than I ever did. Because I mentioned that previously as well. I used to pray to God as a kid. I had no conceptualization of a Trinity, of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I simply prayed to God. Of course, I didn't know about Salah, but as a kid, I just prayed to God and that's it. And so returning to that prayer directly to God is the most beautiful thing you can have in your life. I really don't understand how any Christian has clarity in their mind. Of course, I'm projecting here because I did not have it, but I wonder how you can pull it off. I wonder how you can have clarity, focus, if you do not pray to one God alone. Again, I know Christians will say we do pray to one God alone, but man, you're addressing Jesus, you're addressing the Holy Spirit, you're addressing the Father, you're addressing Mother Mary, you're addressing certain saints as well. How is that peace of mind? How is that a clarity that you can achieve? I don't see it. So therefore, Islam has given me peace of mind, clarity, grounding like nothing ever before. It's quite amazing because yet again, I've been through so many ideologies, especially in New Age ideologies that are infused with Buddhism and Hinduism. People speak about return to the present moment, just be in the now, breathe, and all of those meditative practices. But it never accomplished what it promised. With Islam, it is so amazing. Man, you have a heck for life, honestly. I just feel I'm here now. I'm here finally to live life, and the searching, the seeking is over. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I always make fun, like when I see these ex-Muslim videos, like how they became Christians, that they saw Jesus in the dream. Like, can you imagine doing that? Like, can you imagine being again Christian? Like, they used to pray to statues or something. Like, I just went to church just for a visit with my son, just to show him some shirk. But I just, we have churches everywhere, so I'll just
Look, son, shirk.
Yeah, just like I'm just looking there, like, why are people doing this? Like, there's this box, people go there to do the sins, like it's so weird. But yeah, I used to do that, so it's crazy. Now looking back at what you did in the past, sometimes it's just like, how could I even believe this stuff? Like, how is that?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, yeah. When I
And not just
see
that, like
people,
even with more like with like the mainstream, let's say democracy, human rights, all that, it was all pushed on you. And in the past couple of years, I'm just like, oh, this is just nonsense. All this is crap in reality.
100%.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, huge programming. But yeah.
I said this in my last video. I do understand if somebody sympathizes with certain teachings within Christianity, certain, let's say, humanistic teachings within Christianity, certain parables of Jesus, even. I understand that. I learned about that whilst being a Christian. However, that is not Christianity. If you enjoy, let's say, meditation, that does not make you a Buddhist either. So I do understand if you enjoy certain parts of religions. I get that. However, Christianity as a whole, as you said, implies worshipping statues. And now again, the Christians will say we're not worshipping, we are venerating. But what does that even mean, man? It's the same thing, right? I'm not eating, I'm digesting. Right? What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So you're going to those statues in Macedonia, we're going to those icons. People kiss those icons and they put money on those icons. That obviously makes no sense. And so therefore, Christianity in itself implies so many, shirk teachings ultimately. I don't understand how any true Muslim can become a Christian. Because I don't want to play the card, you were never really a Muslim. But if you never understood the principle of Tawheed, that would be the only explanation for you to become something else. Like for an ex-Muslim, you have to have failed completely to understand what Tawheed means. The oneness of God, you don't understand anything about it. And that's why you can even be lured into any other religion. So now you have Christianity. Okay, I'm going to leave Tawheed behind for a Trinity. Okay. I'm going to become a Hindu. I'm going to leave Tawheed behind for a God that manifests in billions of avatars. Some of them called gods of death that cut off people's heads. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right? I'm going to leave Tawheed behind for the oneness of the universe in Buddhism. I'm just going to meditate. There is no God. And it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, man. No matter which ideology you take, it fails absolute comparison, absolute spiritual depth in comparison to Islam. And that's why when I see those ex-Muslims, I think they just got hung up on certain social norms and certain liberal values that don't agree with Islam, and then they get fed up. Oh, Islam has actually warfare. Yeah, well, every country has warfare. The question is, do they conduct warfare morally? In Islam, you actually have more rules for warfare. So isn't that better? Right? Or are we just going to ignore warfare, like Christianity, we're going to claim, point to the other cheek, but then we're going to go on crusades. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's just be the biggest hypocrites that the world has ever known. So it's ridiculous. In my opinion, if you ever understood Tawheed, you can never change religion. It's impossible.
Nice. Yeah, it's a trick. They try to put Islam in the same category as other religions, because they just view it all as secularism is the winner and all this is nonsense. But that wasn't like that before. Like you can't put Islam next to Buddhism. That doesn't make any sense. Like the scope of things that are in Islam are so wide. Just look at, like, for example, the banking. What's the banking that Buddhists do, or Hindu banking? Like just there are books written, the Sharia books on banking in Islam, and like riba and all that. And that's just one aspect. I'm not even talking about all the other societal things. So it's not like the same thing, but yeah, now we just put it all on the shelf. Anyways, so
yeah, but let me just intersect there real quick. That's why Islam is so hated, because Islam is a complete system, right? So for secularism to work, you need an incomplete ideology, because Christianity doesn't have a proper law in place, right? And then Judaism might have a law, but they don't really have a societal law as we have within the Sharia, even though it is the closest that gets to it. But then again, in Christianity, you don't have that at all. This is why Christianity became secularized. This is why Christianity was the breeding ground for secularism and then democracy, etc., you name it. Especially, it's kind of interesting if you look into the Greek philosophy origins of Christianity that then lead to a Greek political system, which is democracy. So it has been influenced by Greek philosophy from the get-go, and this was the demise of Christianity as well, that tore it apart completely and gave space to secularism. So that's what they want. They want to secularize every single religion, as you said correctly. And with Islam, with true Islam, you cannot do that, because Islam is complete and encompasses all the facets of life. This is why it is so hated. That's, as you said already, in Saudi, yeah, sure, go pray, do Ramadan, whatever, but do not imply Sharia into politics. You cannot say that about any other religion.
Yeah.
You cannot say that to a Buddhist. The Buddhist doesn't care, right? But that's why the Muslim does care. That's why we're attacked.
Yeah, the thing with Islam is, if you completely block it, like in communist Bosnia or in Algeria, the French completely blocked it, so then almost 90% of people couldn't practice Islam.
Right.
So then that doesn't work, because there was a huge uprising, and once they got freedom, then they are more religious. Like Algerians are one of the most religious people now, and in Bosnia it's even increasing as well after the communism, even with young people praying more than their parents. For example, their parents are atheists, but their kids are Muslim. Like they really understand Islam. And so that doesn't really work. So the way you stop Islam is introducing reforms slowly. So first, okay, don't get rid of this apostasy law, get rid of this law, this law, and then just introduce some fitna, some new stuff into the country, and slowly you can secularize a Muslim country so it appears like super conservative. Like UAE is incredibly conservative, but in reality, how is it? I was in Dubai, I was in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's not, I mean, it is, but also on one side, it's like every other European capital, basically, already. So except like excessive drinking, but you can still buy it anywhere. So it's not
That's quite interesting. That's quite interesting that you mentioned that. I'm reading a book at the moment, and I'm open to any criticism about that book. Some people say it's a forgery. It is a book about the creation of Wahhabism in Saudi. It's called Confessions of a British Spy. Have you ever heard about it?
Not really, no.
It describes exactly how, allegedly, again, I'm not taking a side just yet, I want to finish the book, but it describes how a British spy that learned Arabic and Turkish through the Ottoman Empire got into Saudi and infiltrated and started actually working together with Abdul al-Wahhab and creating Wahhabism as an infiltration movement, which appears as hardcore conservative, but then there's fitna within.
Yeah, there's many things like that, especially once you've been a Muslim for a few, some time, and once you start learning about these intra-Islamic things and beefs and problems within the Ummah, and just like, I think you've asked me about the sects or something like that last time. It's so difficult to explain this to a new Muslim. Like, there's deep rabbit holes. Like you can go there. There have been hundreds of years of trying to change Islam since Napoleon. Napoleon became a Muslim. You know this. Like French said, "We are Muslim."
Did he really?
They said we're Muslim now, so Algerians pay us. Not pay us. I think they just said we're gonna still drink alcohol and all that, but you have to obey the ruler. Obey the ruler.
Of course.
This is now Napoleon. So this is like a trick they play, and based of these two hadiths, they changed the whole thing. And there's many groups in Islam which are strange. That's why I don't associate with none of the sort of specific groups. I just say I'm like a Sunni Muslim, whatever that means, and I pray like, let's say, a Hanafi madhab, whatever. But when my Aqidah, whatever. But when it comes to these issues, I don't follow. Because even Wahhabism, what is that? That's a new movement, like 100 years. Salafism is a new movement, 200 years old. What is it? All these are, it's supposed to be like old, but it's actually pretty new. It's only 100 years old, like if you think about these things. So
they're making the claim to orthodoxy, basically, but at the same time, as you said, it is a new movement. It's very reminiscent of Protestantism, actually, in Christianity. It's fairly similar. Of course, there are many ins and outs, but on the baseline, it is a return to literalism, to scripture, and therefore a return to orthodoxy. But if you deeper dissect it, of course, this claim cannot hold true.
Yeah, and it's a difficult topic for us because we'll never understand the full scope because of just the Arabic language. We're not plugged into the community. There are people who will know this better, but it's good to understand, like, there's just one Islam, it's true, but there are many interpretations people can take from these groups. And the safest is just to understand the basics. Once you understand the basics, like really, you understand the Tawhid, you understand how the Quran was compiled, who's the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all that, then you can't go wrong, like if you have that basic. But if you start with some weird thing, you enter Islam from weird angle, then if no one explained the basics, you might have an issue. So that's how I look at it. But if you mention your father is not talking to you, my father is actually in a Facebook group against Muslims. He's like, pork and beer on Muslims or something in Czech Republic, he lives.
Oh, that guy.
I'm just like, so funny. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like that's the main attack. I remember that back in the day as well. In Germany, the only attack is like, yeah, let's drink beer and eat pork. That will show them. Go for it, man.
What?
Yeah, go poison yourselves.
Eat pork, I don't care.
Yeah, that's amazing. We're not vegans. We're not vegans, I don't care if you stab a pig and eat it. I don't mind for that. Just your own detriment if you want to eat that pork flesh. I don't mind.
Have you tried halal slaughter yourself? Or
no, I haven't slaughtered myself halal, no.
Yeah,
I would like to actually have even a chance to do so, inshallah, relatively soon, hopefully. It's a bunch of guys here from Thailand. They run a couple of halal restaurants. Shout out Beef Master, the best gourmet beef steaks in Bangkok, Thailand. Amazing. But they have a whole farm, a halal farm, where they do the slaughter. So it's prime beef, really, really good. And they want to invite me over there. So inshallah, I will try it as well. Obviously not starting with a cow, because I can't imagine slaughtering a cow halal myself, but something smaller. Yeah.
Go for it. I just did it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, first time. On a small, what is it? How do you call it?
A goat?
Yeah, small goat, basically. Like, yeah, something like that, basically. I can't think in English. What was it? But anyways, I did it with my cousin who's a non-Muslim, but he allowed me to. Lamb, yeah, exactly. Lamb, yeah.
But lamb is a baby cow, no? A small cow.
No, it's like a baby sheep. It was a baby sheep, basically.
Veal lamb, yeah, okay, baby sheep, yeah.
Whatever. Fine. It wasn't a cow.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tried it, and it was a really good experience. And I was alone. It was a farm of my cousin who's non-Muslim, just right here, and he told me like what you have to do. So I've did everything I have, like put it to the Qibla, don't show the knife, separate it from the hurt, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, all that. And then I went to do the slaughter. It was a bit messy because it's never like very easy. Sure. It's like, you know, you're slaughtering something pretty big, not like a cat. But at the end of the day, it went well. So I just recommend it for a man Muslim to try it out because it's a good experience. Yeah, and then we have a ton of meat, you know, to eat for a month. So it's great. Anyways, so I'm just maybe one.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's a skill I believe that every man should have as well, because we're so removed from the food supply. It's very unnatural for a man to just grow up and never produce its own food. It's really detrimental, I believe. You know the saying, you have to plant a tree, build a house, create a family. I think you should add to that slaughter an animal as well, right? Create your own food. Very, very important. And I have to say, for me, I always had, I don't want to say an inferiority complex necessarily, but it always felt as if something is missing, because all my uncles and cousins, or the majority of them, they're all butchers and hunters. So they all had that experience of hunting their own meat or butchering their own meat, not halal, of course. They're Christians, but nevertheless, they had that experience of killing an animal, and I never did. And I always felt kind of removed, kind of sterilized in a sense, growing up in Germany and not having to do that. So yeah, inshallah, soon I would love to do that as well.
Yeah, I also felt the same. I saw my grandfather slaughter many things, but I never did because I was too small. And then you grow up in, you never were, I never even thought about it. But now, the more closer I get to like the natural state of being, it's better to also get involved in that, because you never know what's going to happen. And yeah, it's good. And even my cousin who lives there is like, he lived in the apartment blocks his whole life, and he just bought a farm and he just lives there alone without TV.
Amazing.
Completely removed. So yeah, that's great. It's a good experience. Yeah, it's something all of our ancestors did. All the men killed the animals before. Like,
of course,
something you have to do to get the meat. So yeah, it's something. It's something. It takes you back, because we're so
absolutely.
To Volt or whatever, food delivery, or you know, it's so unnatural to eat like that, or just get everything instant. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, instant reward, and it's not sustainable and not really satisfying on a deeper level. I said that about having children as well, just to circle back real quick. It is instant satisfaction that you cannot describe. It is not the same instant satisfaction as ordering a pizza or whatever, having a drink like back in the day. But it's a satisfaction, it's deep-rooted, primal satisfaction of, this is what I have to do. That's how it feels for me. Now looking back, life without children, you cannot say that you are a man if you never had a kid. You've never been a father. That's such an intrinsic part that is missing them. And I believe, to a lesser extent, but still to an extent, slaughtering, planting a tree, as I said, building a house, all of those things, if you don't have them, you're removed from your own nature. And that's what you just said, right? It feels natural. It feels like you're reconnecting, essentially. And I believe that is the fitra as well, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine why I was afraid to have kids. Like, in my whole 20s, I was like a liberal, crazy guy, lost in dunya and drugs and whatever. I was always scared of having kids, always scared of commitment with any girl, nothing. I just wanted to leave quickly. It's like such a loser, like what was you scared
sure.
about? Like it's the best thing. If it's like planned, and if it's not by accident, if it's someone with who you are married, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's like perfect. Like now we're a family, there's a purpose for both of us have roles. Sometimes, we have some fights, but still each of us has a good role to play, and my wife is a gray mom, so it's like perfect. Like I don't understand why I didn't do it sooner. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's the same thing here. The only regret is not doing it sooner. Same here. You cannot change anything in life, but if I can give any advice, it would be create kids way, way sooner. Of course, yet again, in the context of marriage, and everything has to be set up. But if you can make them way, way earlier, man. For me, I waited way too long. Now I have to catch up. I want to make 10 kids, and now I have to speed up here every year one,
Yeah.
ideally.
Maybe
Inshallah.
one more question is about dealing with hate and things like that. Since you're a pretty public person and you're on YouTube, you've been attacked many times, I guess, by many Christians, but also non-Christians.
Sure.
All these people, when I look at their faces, I just see like, I don't know, something's wrong with them. But anyways, how do you deal with it? Because I had some of that on my own. It's never pleasant, especially when it's about your family or stuff like that. So how do you deal with being like a public, let's say, persona? I wouldn't say celebrity, but you're a public figure, right?
Nah, definitely.
So how do you combat when it's never pleasant when somebody's like attacking you, what do you do, in that case, or how do you handle it on your own?
I have to say, I always had pretty thick skin, so I never was really swayed any other way. When I had an opinion, I would just go through with it anyways, so it doesn't really affect me or bother me. And especially not online, because I actually grew up in the real world. So we didn't have smartphones back in the day. I'm a bit older. And therefore, I saw how it is when you get attacked in real life, physical alterations as well. And so, therefore, they're just comments, they're just pixels on a screen ultimately, right? But that being said, I went through many, many ideologies on YouTube as well. So first I started as a raw vegan, and then I abandoned raw veganism and I started eating cooked vegan food. And that's when all the raw vegans started attacking me, and they told me that it is a absolute sin to cook your vegetables. You should never do that, apparently. And they attacked me. Then when I ditched veganism, it was the craziest outcry, of course. You're a murderer, death threats every day. We're going to kill you like you kill the animals. We're going to kill your family like you kill the animals. That's what they said. I just angry soy boys ultimately never happened, of course, but nevertheless, I got a lot of hate. And then the biggest hate train essentially was when I was talking about the Macedonian politics, about Bulgaria, Macedonia, the historicity of the Balkan. That's when a lot of Macedonists reached out to me, and Macedonia is pretty small. So they said, when I'm going to step foot again in Macedonia, they're going to kill me this time for real. Still did not happen. When I was in Macedonia, I was waiting for them. I got some bad looks here and there, but nothing truly happened. Anyways, that being said, I've been attacked over and over and over and over again. And therefore, for me, it's always the same. When I choose something, I choose it because I actually did quite an extensive research, either prior to it or either during it. And this is why I make up my mind. 99.9% of the time, when people attack you, they attack you because they have no knowledge whatsoever. So the people that are attacking Islam, as you mentioned, for example, then we're going to drink beer and eat pork. That's all they know about Islam. You understand? That's it. And that's what they can attack. They only know about drinking beer and pork. And maybe, okay, women are covering up. So that's what I'm going to attack now. The people that attack me because of Islam now, coming from Macedonia, they don't know their own religion. If I would tell them, why do you pray to a triune God? They would ask me, what is a triune God? You understand? So therefore, I don't really care about those attacks because they're not qualified. They come out of ignorance always. So yet again, when I rewind to veganism, vegans started attacking me. Oh, you're a murderer, you're an animal abuser, etc., etc. And I saw the names, because my channel was a bit smaller back then, of course, they were repeating. Some people, they would come back every day hating on me. And then a year or 2 years later, boy, thank you, Bobby, you changed my life, man. I'm eating steaks again. Thank God, my life is so much better now. Sorry for attacking you. So many people circled back. So I understand that their perspective came out of ignorance as well. And that's why, not to act here super compassionate and benevolent, but I truly understand. Most people do not know, and that's why they attack. And there's some sort of unsatisfaction within their own life, and that's why they can spend so much time online attacking other people. I don't have time for that. So when I see comments like that, I really don't care, you know? of course, you have to be safe. So I personally, because I have a bigger reach now, I get recognized everywhere I go. But with that, I'm not saying every day. However, in every country I've been recognized. I've been recognized in Macedonia, in Bulgaria, in France, in Germany, in Vietnam, in Thailand. I've been recognized everywhere. But again, it's not like a celebrity status everywhere I go, every time somebody recognizes me. However, people do recognize me, and this is why you never know. You have psychopaths online, you have stalkers online. The only thing I do is to not disclose my location. That's where you have to be safe. But in terms of online hatred, man, you go for it. You know, pixels on the screen.
Nice. Yeah, I've only been recognized in mosques in Europe where I go. I was just in Vienna or in different cities where I go. They're like, yeah, Anslog Muslim because they're Muslims.
Nice.
But usually, I'm not that big that on the street would people see me. But how do you? I seen you had issues with censorship recently, and you have your Rumble right and stuff like that. So, has that been like really bad for you? Like what exactly happened, and how do you see this moving forward, especially YouTube, things like that? Given I think it was because of was it because of Israel? I'm not sure if that was the main issue, or was it completely something different?
It was prior to Israel. So prior, before I start speaking about Israel, it was an allegation that made no sense whatsoever. Ultimately, they just flagged me with the most ridiculous thing. So a little backstory, I've been flagged many, many times, shadow banned many, many times, demonetized many times. But this time they made it final. They said this channel is not eligible for monetization at all anymore. It will get shadow banned. All of that got striked for the, I think, second time. And yeah, the reason behind it was that I'm generating content with no additional value. And that's what they used in the end then. So no additional value whatsoever. I'm simply re-uploading videos, apparently. You know those TikTok videos where somebody just plays a video and then they're like, oh, you know, like this? Yeah, that's what they alleged I was doing, apparently. Even though I showed them proof that if I react to, for example, a 10-minute video, the video ends up being at least 30 minutes, which means I have 20 minutes of additional commentary to the 10-minute video. And that is what I always do. People sometimes complain even that I'm talking too much on those reaction videos. They want to kind of follow along with the video and I just keep on interrupting, but that's how I am. I keep on talking. So anyways, they use that as an allegation. And like that, they demonetized the whole channel, they shadow banned, etc., etc. And I went through a huge appeal, and it took me 3 months ultimately, going through Google AdSense, going through the YouTube community team, getting a support team, blah, blah, blah. And then in the end, they started remonetizing some content now, but the damage was done already, and the shadow banning is still active. So like that, they destroyed a lot of reach. So my views, they plummeted from, let's say, 100K to 30K, right? And they keep on suppressing further. And yeah, I was doing YouTube as a job ultimately. So 3 months of no pay at all. And then a reduction in pay of, I don't know, man, 70% less or something on those lines. That's where I went over to Rumble. So was it detrimental? 100%, of course, absolutely. But I have great supporters as well. So people have been supporting outside of YouTube as well. They helped me a lot. I didn't have insurance here in Thailand, and my wife was just pregnant, gave birth. Not recommended. Don't be stupid as me. Get a insurance on time. We wanted to get an insurance, but my wife was already pregnant, and then you cannot get another insurance. You have to do the insurance 7 months prior to the pregnancy, because otherwise people would abuse insurances. They would just get it for the pregnancy and then drop out again. So like that, I had to pay $10,000 ultimately for that pregnancy here in Thailand. That was great, fantastic.
Wow.
So yeah, it was amazing. It was quite the spending, and that was exactly in the time where I was totally demonetized. Right, so it was pretty rough, but I have to smile about it because I really believe in Allah's plan. And yeah, somehow it always works out magically in the end. So Rumble in itself now is not a big money source or anything on those lines, but I'm setting up myself there as well because in the future, I know at some point, of course, only God knows, but at some point, I believe that I'm not going to be on YouTube because it has been just too much. They always find a new reason. I'm always trying to obey by the community guidelines because I say, hey, listen, I'm using your platform. I have to obey by your rules. Otherwise, I have to make my own platform and that's it. So I'm not going against the community guidelines. However, they can use the community guidelines because they are so vague against you and kick you out despite. Because as I said, they can just tell you, oh, your content does not offer any value. I'm like, man, I've been generating so many viewers, so many subscribers over the past few months. If there was no value at all, how can that be, right? I'm showing them my editing process. Anyways, they had one statement as well. If you go against the World Health Organization, they can ban you. However, the World Health Organization proclaimed that a vegan diet, for example, is suitable for all stages of life, including infants. So that means it's healthy to feed your kid vegan. Now, 1 year later, they circled back on that statement because children actually got malnourished and unfortunately died on vegan diets. So if I would have said, hey, don't feed your kid a vegan diet, they could technically say, you go against the World Health Organization, we're going to delete your channel. So that's what I'm saying. If they want to do that, they can do that, no worries. And that's why you're always on thin ice with YouTube. And therefore, it is a good idea to start creating other platforms, to start joining other platforms as well, just to be safe. You know, if you want to get your message out. That's how I see it. But yeah, it has been detrimental for sure. But yeah, I just don't care, man. As long as I can feed my family, I'm happy and everything is good. And inshallah, everything will work out for the better.
Inshallah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's getting more censorship, definitely. And it's gonna continue given the political climate. I can't imagine it going back. Like there will have to be some sort of big awakening. But I was happy with X, with Twitter, because it's like it allows everything pretty much. Especially with Palestine, everything's out there. But now when Elon met with this guy, I'm like, how is this gonna be? So it's interesting.
Anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic Elon Musk over here has to repent in Israel for his sins committed. Yeah, that's quite amazing. Now, if you take, that's the amazing thing about democracy, liberalism, freedom of speech, human rights. If you adhere to exactly those things, but you're just on the other side of the coin, you're an extremist, you're a bigot, you're right-wing, whatever, and they're going to kick you out, even though you're obeying exactly their rule sets. So within a democracy, you have religious freedom. Then you want to practice Islam under religious freedom. And then they're going to tell you you're an extremist, right? Then you're going to say, hey, I'm siding with the Palestinian people. It's my freedom of speech. It's my right. It's a humanitarian obligation, even, I would claim. No, now you're an anti-Semite, even though the Palestinians are Semitic people. It's amazing, right? So within that context, even though you're obeying the rules, you're still somehow not obeying the rules, apparently, because you're not on their side. It's amazing, man.
They are more Semitic than Israelites. Like they're European.
Of course.
So what? They're not Semitic people.
Technically, the definition of a Semite is somebody that speaks a Semitic language, so be it Arabic or Hebrew. So technically, if we learn Arabic, then we're Semites as well, bro.
Then I'm Semite as well. I can speak Arabic.
Yeah, then you're Semite, done.
Yeah.
You already mastered Arabic? You can speak Arabic?
No. I mean like a couple of surahs, you know. I can read a bit, but I wasn't I wasn't able to learn Arabic. Yeah, I just my progress in Islam was not that great. I was busy with starting the masjid here in Slovakia, so we have now a masjid and stuff like that, so it's great. But other than this,
I saw a few videos. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
If you ever come, feel free to stop.
Oh, that would be actually quite great. If I make it back to Europe, maybe next year in summer, we wanted to visit. Inshallah, we'll see. And then I might make a tour from Germany down to the Balkan, because I really want to visit Bosnia, actually.
Yeah,
that's my main focus this time.
Yeah, definitely Bosnia is the place to be. But unfortunate country for politics and everything. But it's a beautiful.
Which one isn't?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bobby, for spending time with me, and hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up maybe in the future and see where the world has moved, how crazy things get. But one thing is for sure, things are only getting crazier. They're not getting slower and more calm. So we'll see how it goes. But let's just stay on deen, and if we die as Muslims, that's all we need. So
that's right, bro. That's right. That's all that counts ultimately. And it is beautiful as well, because it filters essentially out who is a true Muslim and who is not. So the greater the challenge is within the dunya, the closer you can get to your deen if you truly follow Islam, and everybody else will just drop out. That is okay as well, because ultimately we return to God alone. You know, we don't take anything with us. We don't take anybody with us. everybody's facing their own challenges. Your father is in a anti-Islamic Facebook hate group. My dad does not talk with me. That's fine, man. Ultimately we have to face God ourselves.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Well,
great talking to you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And let's see if we can catch up next time. All the best.
May Allah bless you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.